Good morning and welcome to the launch of the Help Children Be Children campaign. I am Richard Tombono, Director of Program at Child Helpline International, and I will be your host for the day. While it feels like the world is slowly returning to a semblable of normality, the ability to meet fully in person has sadly not yet been fully realized. Thank you to all of you who are joining us on the platform and on across social media channels. Please note that this event is being recorded. It is also live interpreted in sign language and in French. To access the French interpretation, you can press the button French translation on the top right corner of your screen. Pour nos invités francophones, veuillez noter que cet événement est enregistré. Il est aussi traduit simultanément en langue des signes et en français. Pour accéder à la traduction en français, cliquez sur le bouton French Translation en haut et à droite de votre écran. So, why are we here and what do we aim to achieve? Nelson Mandela once said, "Our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Those who abuse them tears and the fabric of our society and weaken our nation." A child tormented by sexual abuse a life of sadness, fear, humiliation, and anxiety. The MTN Group, in partnership with Internet Watch Foundation, Meta, and strategic partners seek to not only prevent this outcome, but to implement a proactive campaign that will ensure that children experience a safe online environment. As we further impact the strategic partnership and launch this campaign today, we are grateful to have the privilege to be joined by Honorable Isa Hali Ibrahim, Nigeria Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Hertel Frey, Acting Director General for the Zambian Information and Communication Technology Authority, Zama Nkosi, Council Chairperson for the Film and Publication Board of South Africa, representative from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Internet Watch Foundation, MTN Group, Meta, Child Helpline International, and ICMEC. Our program will run for just under 2 hours. We have structured it in a manner that we believe is informative and one that enables you to ask any question that you may have. Before I pass on to the opening remark, I would like to take some time to talk about those who didn't have a safe online experience. This campaign is dedicated to all those children who suffer some of the worst type of abuse, like Baraka. Baraka was 3-year-old when he was sexually abused. Let's make sure that our thoughts are with the survivor and that our efforts are toward ensuring that abuse stops by reporting online images and video of the abuses so that they are not further re-victimized. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now welcome Nompilo Morofo, Chief Sustainability and Corporate Affairs Officer for MTN Group, to give her opening remark. Nompilo, over to you.
Greetings to everyone who's taken time out to join us this morning for this important discussion. Thank you so much, Richard, for such a warm welcome to our guests that are joining us for this discussion. Technology is really part of our everyday life. We see it every day, especially post the pandemic. We're going to see more and more children getting online, experiencing gaming, experiencing everything that the technology can. For young people, we have realized that there's little difference between online and offline. For them, it's the same thing. The advancement of technology so far in our lives have seen many positives. There's been a lot of positive things, like we're seeing our children getting better education, better access to education. We're seeing a better information sharing and especially freedom of expression. the development of relationships and friendships online that have advanced relationships also with families for children to be able to connect more. However, we must recognize the fact that children in particular will always remain the most vulnerable group in today's digital world. It's something that's concerning. And for me personally, as a parent to many children, I have realized and concerned how much time my children spend on their phones, on their laptops, on their tablets. And I always wonder what it is that they're looking at. My victim today, I will tell a story of a child from Limpopo who was not sexually abused, but there was a lot of images of herself that were being shared online that led her to commit suicide. So things of that sort, we acknowledge the power of technology in terms of betterment of livelihoods, but we also need to acknowledge the power of technology to destroy some lives, especially where children are concerned, because unlike adults, they're still guided by their parents, by the society at large in terms of what they need to be exposed to. MTN and partners, IWF and Meta, have come to the party in terms of assisting in creating the awareness around online children's safety. And it's something that we're very proud of. We will be doing more of this. Why? Because we really want to call on all stakeholders in the fields of child protection, cybersecurity, policy making, technology industry as a whole, and also the public to recognize the damage that technology can have and the impact that it can have on the other side of it being an enabler to children's lives. On that note, I would really like to thank our panelists and particularly call out the Honorable Minister Pantami from Nigeria, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Zama Mkhosi, who's a Council Chairperson for Film and Publication Board of South Africa, Ethel Phiri, the Acting Director General for the Zambia Information and Technology, who have taken off their time to join us and our partners, IWF and Meta, this morning to have a meaningful conversation around this topic. We hope that you learn something today and actually join our cause to help children be children. Thank you, Richard, and over to you.
A cry from a brother. One particular sex is the usual victim, so this is a cry from the other. My little sister is in fact a future mother, so why share content that could ruin her entire childhood when she might raise a child good enough to change the world? Let's change the girl's depiction, every little boy's description by obliterating every sexual image of a young king, let alone a young queen. Every dirty image wiped clean even before it is seen. Picture a past with no trauma or regret. Yes, let us help the IWF provide this armor of respect. Bless.
Wow, what an incredible video. We want to thank Keystar for his profound words. I'm sure it will echo in your mind for some time to come. And we all call other children all over the world to follow this example from Keystar and share their own, and share with their own words what they feel in regard to ending CSAM. So next to our program is a joint presentation on the child sexual abuse material in Africa and Child Safety Online Africa portal, presenting both the issue of CSAM and the African continent, and the solution partner developed to ensure that every child is safe from abuse. First, Guillermo Gayaza, Vice President, Partnership in Law Enforcement Training, or ICMEC, will talk about the data. Guillermo has over 25 years experience in developing relationship and working together with NGOs, law enforcement, industry, and other partners to build capacity and protect children globally. Then, Thomas Dyson, marketing manager at the Internet Watch Foundation, will explain how the Internet Watch Foundation and its partner are aiming to tackle the issue Guillermo will present. Only by working in collaboration with government, law enforcement, NGOs, and charity, and the private sector can we truly put an end to the online abuse on children. Welcome, Guillermo and Tom. The floor is yours.
Hello and welcome. My name is Guillermo Galarza, and I am the Vice President for Partnerships and Law Enforcement Trainings at the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. First of all, on behalf of our partners, IWF, MTN, Meta, Child Helpline International, and UNODC, I would like to welcome you to this launch of a greatest campaign, a Child Safety Online Africa portal. Why are we doing this event in Africa? If I can show you some of the numbers, there's an organization in the United States, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. NCMEC receives cyber tip reports. Cyber tip reports are any content of online child sexual exploitation on the internet, on social media, all over the world. Just to give you some numbers, in 2019 and 2020, there were over 20 million reports globally. These are reports of online child sexual exploitation, content, any material related to child protection online. If we look at the reports in Africa, just in Africa, in 2019, there were close to 1.3 million reports. There has been an increase of 81%. In 2020, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received over 20 million reports. These are cyber tip reports containing reports of online child sexual exploitation all over the world. Just in Africa, in 2019, there were close to 1.3 million reports of online child sexual exploitation. Going to 2020, there was an increase of 81%. That means there's a huge demand of online child sexual exploitation material. And why is that? There's many factors, and some of the factors could be COVID, the increased demand of children being at home, the increased demand of all these mobile devices and telecommunications. Just children have access to online to material, to technology, using these devices that have access to online child sexual exploitation. In Africa, the issue is increasing, and it's going to continue to increase as children have more access to devices, such as tablets, such as video games, such as mobile devices. It is an issue that we have to be aware as parents, as community, and just as a society of what children are getting into these days online. If I can be more specific, these are the reports that the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received in 2020 of sub-Saharan countries. And if you look at some of the statistics, even South Africa, Sudan, those are topping over 100,000 reports. That means that it's still happening in other parts of the world, but the reports that are coming to the authorities, to the National Center, those are the reports that actually illustrate here in these slides. In some of the other countries like Benin or Zimbabwe, the reports are still happening, but they're not making all the way to authorities like the National Center or even the law enforcement. And here's why we're doing this campaign. There needs to be an awareness campaign among society, among families, among schools. That is an issue that is not just a regional or a local issue, it's a global issue. And we need to address this globally. And campaigns like this are gonna really give us an overview of the global problem of online child sexual exploitation. Also, it's an issue of legislation and laws. In 2006, the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, ICMEC, released its first model legislation report. The legislation report focuses on 5 areas of key legislation, whether there's legislation specific to child sexual abuse material, whether it's common definition, whether or not there's technology facilitated offenses criminalized in the national code, whether simple possession is criminalized, or whether or not ISP reporting are mandated to report content to the proper authorities. If you look at the content for Africa, the countries that are with the white shaded, they're not part of the report of the actual campaign. But if you look at some of the reports on the heavy blue shaded, those are some of the countries that actually have laws pertaining to child sexual exploitation. And you could see, for instance, like South Africa is shaded in dark blue, and some of the countries in West Africa are also shaded in heavy blue. Those are the countries that actually meet the criteria of legislation. That means that they have minimum enough criteria. But if you look at the other countries that are lightly blue or so, there's some legislation, they don't meet the full criteria, but this is why we need to educate policymakers, educate governments that we need to continue to improve legislation. We need to continue to improve mandate, and we need to continue to engage with industry so they can create awareness programs, so they can report content to the proper authorities. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about sharing information. I think this campaign is a very good first step to continue to drive this initiative forward. It is not the only one solution. I believe governments must work together to continue to raise awareness. And I think by raising awareness is the first step to create national agendas to address online child sexual exploitation. With that, I will turn this over to my friend or friends at IWF, Tom Dyson, to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gigi. That was a really insightful presentation. And we've worked with the International Centre for Missing and Exploited Children for quite a long time now. And it's really interesting to see their insights into child sexual abuse imagery that's being shared across the African continent. Unfortunately, something that we see at the Internet Watch Foundation all over the world, a global problem that really requires. I'd like to talk to you about the aims of this campaign and what it is that we hope to achieve through the campaign. So the campaign has been broken down into 3 overarching objectives. Objective 1 is to raise awareness of what child sexual abuse imagery is, how it can be reported, and why reporting it is important. And I'd just like to touch on the why element there, of why it's so important to report child sexual abuse imagery, just so that we can ensure that everyone is up to speed with why it is so important. Firstly, it protects survivors from repeated victimization. Every single time an image or a video of a child being sexually abused is viewed or shared or sold online, that child suffers victimization once again, and they can never truly pass this terrible thing that's happened to them until this imagery has been eliminated online. Secondly, it makes the internet a safer place for everyone. It's well documented that viewing this content can have serious mental health implications for children, but also for adults. And it really just makes the internet a much safer place for everyone to enjoy the positive benefits that the internet does bring. It also lets offenders and perpetrators know that there's someone out there fighting for these children and standing up for their rights, to let them know that there is no safe place that they can hide on the open internet. And then finally, it's ethically, it's just the right thing to do. You know, I'm a father myself. I have a child, and ethically and morally, it's my job to protect him. And so it's every adult's responsibility to ensure that if they see child sexual abuse imagery online, that they report it. It's anonymous, and we can action that and have it removed anywhere in the world. So that's the objective 1, raising awareness of what child sexual abuse is, how it can be reported, and why reporting it is important. Objective 2 is all around building capacity. So this is split into 3 different elements. So we want to build knowledge and skill of law enforcement agencies to more effectively investigate these crimes. We want to increase knowledge amongst child helpline staff so that they can offer support to children who may have been victims of child sexual abuse and may possibly have had imagery shared online of that abuse. And then we also want to be able to work with lawmakers to give them the knowledge and understanding of how this can be tackled from a policy perspective. As Gigi mentioned in his presentation, it's extremely important that the legislation and the laws are in place so that this can be tackled from all angles. And then our third objective is really to demonstrate to the tech industry the importance of working in partnership with the IWF and other like-minded organisations. It's really important to understand that child sexual abuse imagery online is a global problem. It doesn't respect borders, and so we can only tackle this by working together. For this campaign, we're working in partnership with MTN, with Meta, with Child Helpline International, the International Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, and the UNODC. And we're able to do together what one organisation would not be able to do alone. So it really just shows that working together is the best way that we can tackle this. And also, I just finally wanted to mention that this campaign is actually phase 2 of a campaign. We ran a pilot of this campaign in Uganda and Zambia at the beginning of 2021, which really gave us an opportunity to see what worked and what didn't work and refine our messaging and make sure that we could run a campaign that would really be impactful and get in front of the most amount of people possible. Moving on, I'm not going to go through this slide in very much detail because there's a lot of information on here, but to give you an indication of the focus countries within the African continent that we're going to be looking at, on the left in blue you will see the capacity building countries. So these are the countries that we're going to be focusing on for law enforcement training, for child helpline training, and for the policy roundtables that we'll be doing with our partners at ICMEC and UNODC. And then you'll see on the right, these are the target countries that we are going to be rolling out the awareness raising campaign in. The countries shown in red in this list are countries that have their own dedicated IWF reporting portal. And I'll come on to a little bit later about what the reporting portal is. But the other countries in yellow will be using the brand new central MTN and IWF reporting portal, which you'll see a little bit later in this presentation. Moving forward, we wanted to talk to you about how we developed the campaign. So the Help Children Be Children campaign was developed in conjunction with an agency in Uganda, TBWA Uganda, who are a fantastic team who really came to understand the issue of child sexual abuse imagery online and how it needed to be tackled. We, as the Internet Watch Foundation, are a global organisation, but we're based in the UK, and so we felt it was really, really important for us to work with a local team who had understandings of the cultural sensitivities around messaging and language issues to ensure that we were being as impactful as we possibly could. So the emphasis for the messaging is that it takes everyone to do their part to stop child sexual abuse imagery being shared online. It really is the moral responsibility of anyone who sees child sexual abuse to report it. And each MTN operating company that takes part will be free to tweak the messaging so that they can ensure it's sensitive to the culture and the language individualities of their nation. So as we mentioned on the previous slide, some focus countries have their own dedicated IWF portal. But for those who do not, we've worked with the MTN team to develop the Child Safety Online Africa portal. And the reporting portal is a very simple mechanism that allows anyone to anonymously report child sexual abuse imagery that they may see online. It takes less than a minute to report, and literally all we need is the URL of where you have seen, or the web address of where you have seen the child sexual abuse imagery. Once you submit that report, that information comes through to our analysts in the UK in Cambridge, and they will assess that content. And if it proves to break the law and be child sexual abuse in nature, we will seek to have that content removed, regardless as to where it's hosted. Now, the MTN Africa portal is a short-term interim solution for countries that don't have their own reporting portal. In an ideal world, every single country will have their own reporting mechanism, whether that's a portal in conjunction with the Internet Watch Foundation, or whether that's their own dedicated hotline where they have their own team working on the ground to receive reports and action those reports to have criminal content removed. So moving on to the capacity building element of the campaign, we are working in conjunction with ICMEC and UNODC, and in 10 target countries, we're looking to deliver capacity building that will focus around a roundtable for policymakers, government, law enforcement, NGOs, and industry representatives. And that's the opportunity to get lots of stakeholders together to talk about the problem of child sexual abuse online and to understand how a partnership approach can help tackle this. And there'll also be training sessions for law enforcement agencies, judges, prosecutors, detectives, and other people in police to let them understand what the best practice is when it comes to investigating child sexual abuse online, and how we can track down the perpetrators who do this terrible crime and bring them to justice. The events will focus on global and regional perspectives of child sexual abuse imagery. As I said before, this is a global problem. This isn't something that just impacts Africa, it impacts every country on the planet. And so it's really important to understand the global perspective so that we can understand how it is that we can tackle this global problem. They'll also be looking at local legislation on the issue, as Gigi mentioned in his presentation before me. There's varying legislation across different countries in Africa, and ideally we want to be in a position where the map that you can see on the right-hand side there is all in the very, very dark blue shade to show that there is really strong legislation to tackle child sexual abuse imagery. And then finally, it's looking at how to enforce and prosecute. So this is where law enforcement and prosecutors will come together to understand the best way to investigate child sexual abuse and also to prosecute those who are perpetrating it. Moving forward, the final element of the campaign is working in conjunction with Child Helpline International, and this is where we'll be rolling out an e-learning module, so an online module that members of Child Helplines can access, and it will provide them with a training and understanding into what child sexual abuse imagery online looks like, and also how to support those children who may have been impacted by that. So within the first phase of the campaign that I mentioned earlier that we ran last year, we developed this e-learning module, and in phase 2, this part of the campaign, we have been working on translation of those modules to meet the needs of 11 different helpline teams. You may notice that we actually had 10 focus countries for this area, but we've developed 11 different modules because we have 2 child helplines in Nigeria, so that's counting as one country. And moving on, that's it from me. I think it would be great now to pass back to Richard. Thank you.
When I grow up, I want to become a doctor. I also want to find a safe internet when I grow up. Please protect the children online.
I am passionate about protecting children. For years, I have worked on different ways to raise awareness and prevent violence against children. And this is just something that I'm so proud to be part of, working with the IWF to protect children further by taking down any sexual abuse content online.
We would like to encourage all the children, parents, guardians, as well as our customers to report any sexual abuse materials that's out there that affects children, and to ensure that they utilize this free portal that we're launching out here today to be able to protect the rights of those children.
Let's make the internet conducive for our children. Let's all work together and stop child abuse online.
Thank you very much, Guillermo and Tom. And what an inspiring video. It shows the power of partnership, to echo to what Guillermo and Tom just mentioned during their presentation. The power of partnership and the important role every member of society play in protecting children online. This campaign seemed to be encompassing all key aspects for an efficient child online protection initiative, a capacity building to open discussion with government, NGOs, industry, the justice system, and train national law enforcement, helpline staff, and all professionals who are in frontline role in protecting children, and an awareness raising aspect so that the general public know that child sexual abuse material is and what to do if they see an image or video showing a child sexually abused online. Next to our program now, we will turn our attention to further impacting the campaign as well as the associate portal. Following this session, and we will open for question and answer. So I invite everyone watching today to please post your question on the chat function during the panel. If you would like to address your question to a specific member of the panel, please do indicate who you would like to address your question to. As I mentioned earlier, this panel discussion will be conducted by Carmen Corbin, Head of Counter Cybercrime Programming, West and Central Africa, based in Dakar, Senegal. Welcome, Carmen, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here participating in this event today. As Richard mentioned, I am with the United Nations on Drugs and Crime in West and Central Africa. But this particular topic, this particular crime is particularly close to my heart because I am a former federal prosecutor from the United States, and I specifically worked for a little over 11 years prosecuting these specific types of crimes against children. So this is an important launch and an important event today. In the world of cybercrime, the focus is clearly generally on the dark side or the pitfalls of technology. But today, however, as we launch the Help Children Be Children campaign, we have the opportunity to counter the problem of child sexual abuse material by actually using technology for good. I'd like to take some time before presenting the panel to talk about the reason behind this event. And this campaign. We are all together today to ensure that no child has to endure an experience as traumatizing as child sexual abuse. But sadly, not all children have been protected. One such child is a child named Sarah. So today I am wearing a jersey in Sarah's honor. You can see from my jersey that I have Sarah's name listed on my jersey. Sarah was 8 years old when she was sexually abused, and that is represented by the number 8 on the back of my jersey. She was sexually abused, and the footage was published online. So I am wearing this jersey today in her honor to make sure that we remember her and the other survivors of this type of abuse. And I am absolutely delighted to see our panelists who are here today to present solutions to make sure that no other child experiences what Sarah went through and other children like her. I'm joined today by a very esteemed panel who will share their thoughts and views on what needs to be done to create a safe online environment for children. So welcome everyone, and thank you for your time today. I'd like to encourage, before we start, I'd like to encourage our audience to take advantage of this panel to ask your questions. You are able to put questions into the chat. So let's first kick off with our esteemed government representatives. So I believe that we have a representative from Nigeria, from the digital economy, from the communications and digital economy of Nigeria. So welcome. I would like to ask the question specifically that Nigeria is a true hub in terms of, Nigeria is a true hub in terms of technology and development on the continent of Africa and globally. How do you ensure that bad actors, criminals, and those looking to abuse children online cannot take advantage of a better internet access, better infrastructures, and the platforms that exist in your country? Welcome.
All right, thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you for having us here. Let me start by bringing warm greetings from my boss, the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy. Actually, till very late last night, he planned to be here and told me to make arrangements. But a few hours ago, some things came up. You know, responsibilities like that, you can't really be sure of how you manage your time. He's responsible. The president gives him assignments and things like that. So he sends his warm regards, he sends his apologies, and he would like you to know that this is something that he holds very dear to his heart. And we're making progress along the lines of, you know, protecting people and of course, protecting children. In terms of what we're doing as a country, I would like to first say that, you know, we all know how the world had to experience the effects of the COVID pandemic. While there were many negative effects, one of the positive effects that we experienced in Nigeria, and I believe in many parts of the world, was the increased online presence. So many people now spend more time online. And unfortunately, that gave cyber criminals and people that wanted to perpetrate evil acts to have more access to people online. And so in terms of what we're doing to try to protect cyberspace, we have a lot of policies and initiatives in place that focus on cybersecurity. We know that Nigeria has the Cyber Crimes Act, and that act actually talks a lot about how to protect people online, and it specifically talks about how to protect children online. And they will have the policy and strategy that was put together last year. That also talks about that. In addition to that, one of the parastatals under the ministry, the National Information Technology Development Agency, is coming up with an internet code. And recently, I think just last week, the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy launched a committee on the development of a unified national strategy on child online protection. It has people from the ministry, from NIDA, from the National Communications Commission, from NAPTIP. I'm sure you know of NAPTIP in Nigeria, the organization that helps with the prohibition of trafficking. So we're doing things where, and we're putting those measures in place. And of course, we're trying to emphasize the importance of awareness as well, because if people are not aware, then it's difficult for them to report and to prevent things like that. So in a nutshell, those are the few things we're doing. I'm sure as the panel goes ahead, I'll be able to talk some more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And really, we are quite grateful to have you here today. We completely understand how things can change. And I'm sure that Professor Isa Ali Ibrahim, the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy in Nigeria, is quite busy. But we are grateful for his support, and for your support in being here today. So I thank you very much. So let me move on quickly over to our next panelist, to Ms. Zama Mkosi. Ms. Mkosi, as South Africa is one of the main hubs in terms of digital technologies development on the African continent, how does the Film and Publication Board ensure that progress in this area is made with keeping the safety of users and children in particular in mind?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carmen, for the opportunity to represent and articulate to the audience listening all the great work that the South African government, through its entity, the Film and Publications Board, is doing in this space. And firstly, I would also, I'm bringing the warm regards of our Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, who personally called me urgently to take their seat because they had committed that they are going to be here. So they also take this subject quite seriously, and hence they did call on me as the chair of the entity that has the mandate to implement this cause for the South African government to position what South Africa is doing in this space. And I think it's firstly important to acknowledge that, carrying a mandate to balance the rights that are often enshrined in constitutions and Bill of Rights in various countries of the content creators, as well as the distribution platforms, but at the same time to balance those with the rights of users of those platforms, particularly children. It really is quite a mammoth task. And it is a task that really takes a fine balancing act, because there is often competing rights. But we know that when it comes to crimes being committed against children, as sexual crimes against children, we know that children's safety takes priority, and that really is the position that the Film and Publications Board has taken. And in that regard, first and foremost, I think it was mentioned earlier by one of the other guests that it starts with legislation, and it starts with the policies that you have in place. And as the FPB, we have made great strides to make sure that the policies that we have in place enable law enforcement agencies. It empowers even the general public to know what to do and what action to take in order to prevent such occurrences happening. And in the event that such occurrences they happen, that there is clarity as to what the steps are that need to be taken, and those steps can actually lead to action being taken against perpetrators. For example, the legislation that empowers the Film and Publications Board is primarily looking at making sure that we protect consumers, and we protect consumers, particularly children, through classification. The way that we classify the content, it empowers the audience. It empowers even those parents to know beforehand and not find themselves already consuming content that ultimately is going to be offensive, particularly to children, without having been aware of that. But also, it is our legislation where it makes the use of children in pornographic content, it makes it illegal and it makes it punishable. And we think that is important to have it legislated, that it is punishable, that there is going to be legal consequences. And the recent amendments come to close and create space for other panel members. But I just have to mention this because we have had to make sure that our Act also moves with the times and gets updated, because digital technology moves very rapidly. So the recent amendment acts, which were promulgated and come into effect on the 1st of March by the president, do exactly that. They go a long way in order to make sure that our law is moving ahead with the times in terms of technology. But one of the things that it has introduced is we've introduced a quasi-judicial body that is going to investigate such breaches to the Act. It's going to investigate them, but not only that, it is going to be empowered to impose a fine and even remove licensing, in terms of some of those platforms that continue to put up content that is not in line with legislation. I'll end off there for now, and I'm sure I'll get another opportunity later to tell the audience more about what we do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mikosi. No, those are really very good points, and it is such a nice thing to hear that South Africa is doing so much. And as you said, the form of legislation and other things, the technology does change so rapidly that it is so important that we keep abreast of that. So thank you for your thoughts. And again, thank you to the minister's support and your support for all of your efforts in supporting this program. So let me move on to Ms. Pethel Piri from Zambia. So Ms. Piri, I'd like to ask you specifically so Zambia is one of the 23 countries on the African continent to have a national reporting portal developed by IWF in partnership with ZICTA. This is great news. Can you explain how the portal is helping Zambians stay safe online?
Okay, thank you very much, Carmen, for that question. And indeed, we are happy and privileged to be part of this interaction of children be children. Yes, you're correct. Zambia's portal was launched in 2018 with the objective of protecting children online. And through this portal, it is now easy for quick and easy reporting of child sexual abuse in form of videos and images. So what it is that if somebody notices anything, they can actually post on the website, and there's also a reporting feedback loop. You can report anonymously, and then in case you want us to give you feedback, we'll get back to you on how that case was handled. And over time, we have seen an increase in the number of cases that are reported. When it first started, then the number of cases reported were on the low side, but looking at statistics from 2021, we have seen an increase in the number of cases that are reported. And also, as part of our sensitization, we also like to remind the public that this portal is available for them to use to report on cases that arise with regard to child online safety. And also just to mention that we also enacted our Cybersecurity Act last year in 2021. So in the Cybersecurity Act, it actually does list the distribution of child pornography as a crime, and somebody can get arrested for 15 years or so. So it is something that we are taking seriously. And with the portal, it actually gives us a way for us to collect and be aware of the cases that are happening, and obviously run them through the appropriate law enforcement agencies to actually deal with the matters. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Piri. It is really a good experience to hear how Zambia is dealing with this and using the portal. So that's great, and I'm sure that many other countries can learn from your experience. So let me now ask a couple of questions to our private partners, our private company partners that are here with us today. So I'm going to turn to Nompilo, who is with MTN. Nompilo, welcome. And specifically, MTN has really been instrumental in the Help Children Be Children campaign and the development of the Child Online Safety Africa portal. So I'd like to ask you, why is the campaign important to MTN? And what is the company doing specifically to counter this issue?
Thank you, Carmen. So MTN, as I mentioned before when we started, we have a belief system that says everybody deserves the benefits of a modern connected life. However, when we would like to see all our customers and the communities that we serve enjoying those benefits and those rights in a responsible manner. We particularly look at human rights and issues of digital human rights to ensure that all vulnerable groups that we work with are protected online, particularly the children in this case. So 2 years ago, when we started this conversation with IWF, it was a no-brainer really for MTN to get involved. It's a cause that we're very passionate about. We talk on our brand about doing for tomorrow, today, because we believe, like Richard started his conversation by saying that children are the future. So we need to protect them and make sure that they're kept safe in all the spaces that they've just discovered. COVID really has just exacerbated the use of online platforms in companies like MTN, etc. And we feel like we will continue to partner with organizations that are like-minded in this area to actually create awareness. We've seen that in markets sometimes where we operate, reporting things of this sort is a personal issue. Sometimes it's very culturally nuanced. We have seen behaviors in creating our awareness where content of this nature is also not reported because it's kept within a family situation. So we want to just create awareness that there's a safe space within this portal where you can even anonymously report any issue that you've seen that's of sexual content that pertains to children, so that we're able to act faster in able to protect the children that are involved. So it's something that we're going to continuously be doing and looking at how we're getting involved in campaigns of this sort. But 2 years ago, like you mentioned, we started in Uganda and Zambia to work with IWF, and we're hoping to see more coming through in the continent.
Great. Thank you very much for your thoughts and for all of that additional information about MTN's effort in this field. So let me move over to ask Heidi from the Internet Watch Foundation about their efforts. So Heidi, welcome. Let's talk collaboration, since that really is the name of the game at this event today. How important is international and multi-sectoral collaboration, including government, law enforcement, NGOs, and industries in the fight against child sexual abuse material?
Thank you, Carmen, and hello to everyone. At IWF, obviously, that's the answer to that question is very simple. It's absolutely crucial to us that we have this international collaboration. We couldn't do the work that we do at IWF without that internal collaboration. And what we've seen and heard from all of the esteemed partners here today, that collaboration really does make an impact. We've seen from the results of the phase 1 of the campaign what an impact that has made. And we wish to continue, obviously, that impact in a much wider field. Just to give you an example, really, of what we do at IWF, we have seen in the region of, in 2021, over 252,000, removed 252,000 URLs containing child sexual abuse imagery. And those URLs can contain anything from 1 to 1,000 images of children being abused. We have to work together to stop that from happening. We've seen from our colleagues talking today that sort of shocking statistic of an 81% increase in CSAM across the African continent. Only working in collaboration can have an impact on getting that percentage to reduce. At IWF, we've also seen a huge spike in self-generated content, and that's what I mean by that is content that is generated by the child themselves, whether that be voluntary or coerced. And we've seen a really shocking increase of 168% of that type of content being shared online. So it's absolutely crucial that we need to work together to be able to reduce this horrible imagery online. LWF, we are delighted that we are part of this campaign, and in particular to see the actual portal being launched. If we can ask people to raise awareness, to get people reporting to that, we can assess those images at IWF, we can remove those images, and we can stop that child being re-victimized again and again by the images being shared online. I can't stress enough how important that is, and I would ask everyone who is here today and participating in this event to really think about what can they do. Are you doing enough? If you are involved, and if you aren't involved, why are you not involved? It takes all of us together to stop this problem. This is a global problem. We cannot bury our heads in the sands around this problem. We need to work together in collaboration to stop this problem from happening.
Thank you so much, Heidi. I could not agree with your points more. I fully agree. As a former prosecutor and as my work with you in ODC, the importance of this collaboration and this type of public-private partnerships and international reach, it really is crucial. We always say that it takes a network to take down a network, and I think that's what we are doing today. So thank you so much for your points and your efforts. So let me finally move over to Dave from Meta, last but absolutely not least. So Dave, welcome, and let's talk about what operational and technical measures has Meta put in place to safeguard children online, especially on the African continent?
Great question. Thank you very much, Carmen, and thank you everyone on Meta's behalf for inviting me to speak today. Great to be alongside such wonderful organizations who we're proud to call our partners. I'm wearing the shirt of Imani, so I wear that in honor of her as a victim. And for Meta, keeping children safe on our platform is vitally important to us. And on the African continent, it's no different. Today, we have 40,000 people working on safety and security, and we've invested approximately $5 billion in 2021 alone on safety and security. My team works with our regional policy teams in Africa, along with governments, other industry partners, academics, and NGOs. Indeed, today's roundtable is testimony to that. Meta's Safety Center provides a central location for people to access a variety of safety materials across our family of apps, such as Parent Portal, Child Safety Portal, and Youth Portal, in a range of African languages. We recently launched a digital literacy program dedicated to sub-Saharan Africa. My Digital World provides accessible learning modules that are designed for students between the ages of 13 and 18 years old. The curriculum is designed to create step-by-step instructions for teachers, caregivers, and students of all these age ranges. And also recently, we introduced a number of product updates to strengthen children's safety and privacy online, including defaulting young people into private accounts on Instagram, preventing adults messaging people under 18 who don't follow them, making it harder for potentially suspicious accounts to find young people, and limiting the options advertisers have to reach young people with ads across our apps. This means that previously available targeting options, like those based on interests or on their activity on other apps and websites, will no longer be available to advertisers. I'm happy to talk more about our work tackling child sexual exploitation and abuse a little later, but just to say that our Report It, Don't Share It PSA campaign has launched in more than 16 countries throughout Africa, along with safety alerts and pop-up prevention tools in-app, and we look forward to continuing to battle what is really very heinous content. Back to you, Carmen.
Thank you so much. That is really great to hear about all the efforts that Meta is putting forth in this field and on this issue, which is really important, of course, which we all know in Africa, where Meta is used by many, many people in every country on the continent. And so it is really important for Meta to be a part of this this campaign. So thank you. Okay, so I'd like to now open up to some questions from our audience, if the panelists are in agreement for that. So please, audience members, if you are able and you're interested, please submit your questions into the chat, and I will be happy to put them forward to the panelists. If you can, in writing your question, please indicate to whom you would like me specifically to ask the question to. So, okay, so I think we have a question. This question is specifically for Ms. Makosi. So let me get you on. So Ms. Makosi, the question from the audience is, why are there not platforms created specifically for children only? And why are the age limits not enforced on certain platforms? I'm not sure if that means like other online internet platforms. But please go.
Okay, yeah, I think that might be a bit of a query there to understand which platforms they're referring to. But certainly, I think it is our mission to make sure that every platform is first and foremost registered with the Film and Publications Board. And that is something that, thanks to the most recent amendments to the legislation, we have, been empowered with regulating even the online content space, because before the amendments, that regulation was by consent effectively, and it was not a legal obligation, but all of that has changed with the amendments. So the recent amendments, which only came into effect on the 1st of March, are the ones that actually make it a legal obligation for platforms that make available content for sale in the country to be registered with the Film and Publications Board. And upon registration, they are then obliged to comply with the age restriction and the classification guidelines of the Film and Publications Board. So I think with those new teeth, so to speak, that the Film and Publications Board have now been given as a result of the latest amendments, we are planning to really go out there and do, I don't want to use a strong word, but do a clean sweep, so to speak, being empowered now by legislation as opposed to the negotiation and appealing to people's good faith. Now we actually have a legislation that backs us up. Now there are legal consequences if platforms are not complying, and those we do have a judicial body that is going to investigate such complaints, for instance, and the public has every right to put in a formal complaint to the FPB that this particular platform has got this particular content and it appears that it is not classified, it is not rated, and we then have an obligation as a result of these amendments to then investigate and ultimately impose fines, as I said, if there is a finding that there is non-compliance in any event. So, and also perhaps another thing that we've introduced, simply because of the reality of regulating in the space where there is online content everywhere, and the Film and Publications Board cannot have their hands everywhere. The new amendments have introduced a concept of co-regulation with the platforms. And by that, it means that we make available our classification guidelines, which are, in terms of international and global classification standards, they are right there with it. So we make those available and reach agreements with platforms for them to co-regulate, but we still, as FPP, remain ultimately responsible for those regulations, but we do it in partnership with the platforms.
Thank you so much for that really comprehensive answer. I appreciate that. Okay, so I have another question, and this one is actually for Heidi. So Heidi, the question from our audience is, apart from the reporting channels, what else will IWF be doing to deal with the issue of child sexual abuse material?
Thank you, Carmen. Well, as you say, we do have the reporting portals, of which we have 49 international reporting portals around the world, and this new one here today makes that to 50. But also, in addition to that, at IWF, we have over 170 industry members who help us in that fight. Those members also take our services in order to block child sexual abuse material from their platforms. But also, as we can see today from this sort of partnership, they help us in terms of spreading the word, the awareness raising, and developing the technology. We have partners across the world, which includes also government, NGOs, law enforcement, a lot of ISPs and telecoms. But what's crucial, and what one of my colleagues mentioned earlier, is also about that technical collaboration. We have to stay one step ahead of technology. So at IWF, we are also developing lots of very clever technology that will help us to more efficiently detect and remove child sexual abuse material. So those that's reported by members of the public or proactively searched by our analysts back in Cambridge in the UK, we can provide the technology solutions that will help to actually detect that content to get it removed, and then we can work with our industry partners so they can deploy our services across their platforms to also get that removed. So there is a whole selection of things that we are doing at IWF. Also, I can't fail to mention the analysts that we have who have to unfortunately view this child sexual abuse material every day. They do an absolutely fantastic job in terms of removing content online. And so I think that it's not just one thing that IWF is doing. There's a multitude of things that IWF are doing to try and remove the child sexual abuse material.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, so let me pass over now to our representative from Nigeria, Dr. Femi Aduli. I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. I hope I have done an okay job. But I have a question for you. Okay. So from our audience, the question is, Nigeria has made great strides in promoting digital literacy through initiatives such as the Open Imo project, which will result in more children being exposed to the online community. As progress is made, is the ministry rolling out any other online safety plans to mitigate against any unintended consequences of having so many children accessing the internet?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me start by saying you pronounced it well. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, like I said earlier, we are aware of the fact that many people have to go online, including children. Many of them had to, go online for their education as a result of the lockdown. So many of them are active on the internet. And as a responsible government, the Honorable Minister is also someone that is passionate about cybersecurity. He's a professor of cybersecurity. So efforts are being put in place to ensure that, children and minors are protected online. Like I said earlier, the Honorable commissioned a national committee on the development of a unified national strategy on child online protection just last week, and so it goes to show that we're being proactive and we're looking at ways to ensure that people are safe online. In addition to what I just mentioned about this, we're very much interested in collaboration because, like it was said earlier by Heidi, it's difficult for this type of problem to be addressed by just one institution or one country. It is something that is cross-border. It's usually a cross-border crime. So it's important that there's some element of collaboration. And I mean, the ministers sending me here to participate in this event shows that he's very keen to collaborate with relevant partners. And going forward, we'd like to keep that conversation going. In addition to the capacity building, right? We also focus on, like I said, cybersecurity. If you want to protect, you have to start by having a good cybersecurity framework that, you know, even makes it possible to be able to identify where such crimes are committed. So we're doing that a lot as well, and we believe that that will help. And in addition to that, capacity building. So we have engaged, like the question that was asked, they said we've engaged many people and we're doing a lot of digital literacy because it's important for people to know how to keep themselves safe online, you know. So digital literacy has been undertaken across the country, also in collaboration with partners as well. And we're open to more partnership, but capacity building, the minister believes that capacity building is key. He's been harping a lot on the issue of digital skills being more valuable than degrees. So in terms of even this protection of children online, we need to have the requisite skill. We need to build capacity of the law enforcement agents. We need to build the capacity of the regulators. We even need to build the capacity of the children. I mean, they need to know what to do to protect themselves online. So these are some of the things that we're doing. And yes, we're very aware of the dangers of going online.
Great, thank you. Thank you for all of that information. So let me see. Let me go to Nompilo with MTN. Nompilo, are you still available and on our panel? There you are. Yes, I can see you. So we have a question from the audience that is specifically, and this is an important question, any form of abuse often takes deliberate cultural and mindset shifts. What types of cultural and behavioral elements do you believe the continent needs to adopt to better tackle issues like child sexual abuse?
Thanks, Karen. So, like I mentioned earlier, MTN, we have quite a lot of campaigns on different issues across the continent. We cannot dictate of the market where we operate, but what we do is that we work within the culture of each country to ensure that we learn the messaging around the issues that are important, such as this one. So what we will do with IWF, for instance, and Meta, and the partners that we're working with, is to ensure that we translate the material around child sexual abuse in a way that's culturally sensitive to the markets where we operate, and make sure that the message lands without us patronizing our communities where we operate. So it's in that context that we really want to look at partnerships with communities. We don't want to come to them with an idea that we know better, but it's about building this and co-creating a culture where our children can thrive.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, this is great. So we're getting short on time, so I'd like to ask just one last question that is really going to be to all of the panelists. So please feel free to jump in as you can. But the question that's being asked is, and from me, I would be grateful if the relevant panelist members that are on this topic can kindly explain what kind of support victims require when they report child sexual abuse material, and what mechanisms exist for referrals to services that may be needed. Do I have anyone that would be willing to jump in and answer that?
Well, perhaps I could make a start from a meta perspective.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile stating for the audience that the reporting portals mean that this illegal content, which is what it is to view, is handled correctly by the analysts and then sent via the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in the US, classified and then returned to law enforcement, who can then handle those cases. So that loop is protected by law and is really important to the way we work. I think what's key from an industry perspective is cross-industry collaboration. MTN, Meta, ourselves, but many more others need to step up. And the reality is we proactively scan on all our public services, and we take down 99% of CSAM content even before the user even reports it. And the point here, I think, is that there needs to be a lot more preventative work. How does it come about in the community, and how do we prevent that? How do we deal with people who are looking at this content, maybe just perhaps out of curiosity or poor humor? There needs to be an educational process going on. And I think this kind of campaign is really important. It addresses that. It talks about the fact that this content is illegal to view, and that every time there's content viewed, that victim is re-victimized. So I think those things are really important. I think the next thing too as well is that different countries and different regions have different cultural norms, and in some communities it's really actually shameful to report something. Often police forces or law enforcement may not be trusted, or in others play a very different role. So there's lots of cultural sensitivities, and I think what Meta tries to do with our regional teams is be really sensitive to those and work with NGOs and communities on the ground to support not just the community but the victims too. And I think actually what you've done today by us getting to wear these shirts with these victims just demonstrates that really we've got to reduce this to a human level. It's not just a technology issue, it's a range of actors coming together like we do today to resolve what is a very heinous crime. And hopefully what we can do in the next few years, educate the communities out there to understand that it is unacceptable to view this kind of content. I hope that's useful.
Yeah, Dave, that is quite useful. And it is really interesting to hear, for sure, the private sector's kind of focus and visibility on that issue. On the same question, though, I'd like to hear maybe from one of our government representatives. Can I pass over to Edgar, who is here representing Zambia and ZICTA? I'd be curious to know what is your perspective and how ZICTA is dealing with basically the ramifications that come when someone reports this type of crime and this type of activity. What does ZICTA do to help those people that are reporting and the victims and anyone involved in these types of cases?
Well, thank you very much for that question. In terms of ZICTA as an ICT regulator, in terms of, we normally protect in terms of maybe the people who are reporting. It's important because, like we said, the portal asks in terms of confidentiality. So it's just important sometimes if they choose to be confidential, we have to ensure that actually it remains confidential. But I think one thing I've seen also is in terms of the victim. I think the victim, because now if they publish everything on the internet, I think it requires a lot of work, not just maybe from ZICTA point of view or maybe from other institutions. I think it requires everyone to help counsel, especially counseling of the victims, because it becomes difficult, especially it may lead to negative effects like maybe suicide or low self-esteem. So I think it requires the whole maybe society, like we say, that it takes a whole community to educate a child. I think it has to take the whole online community to protect those children and maybe try to get them through that process in terms of so that at least they gain that self-confidence back. But I think for those, in terms of if it's adults who are involved in perpetrating these vices, I think, like Bethel said, there's serious consequences in terms of the law, which we have put a cyber security. There are serious penalties, especially when it comes to child pornography. You had 15 years, we have even put grooming and solicitation. So I think for those, there are serious ramifications, especially if the adults are involved. And I think so far, there have been a number of cases in court where even adults have been arrested and convicted. But I think what I wanted also to say in terms of referral system, we have seen that yes, we have the helpline and we have also the Internet Watch Foundation portal. But I think these systems need to be connected. You find that on one hand, the law enforcement agencies maybe are not connected to this system so that they're able to follow through some of these cases which are referred to them. Although in Zambia, we have a national national coordinating committee where ministries and all these law enforcement are represented, but I feel we need to have a proper system where if cases are reported also maybe to law enforcement agencies, they're able to be tracked. If they go to the courts, they're able to be tracked so that at least we have that holistic database, but which is currently missing at the moment in the country, so that we have a proper oversight in terms of what each institution is doing, especially for the cases referred. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edgar. That is really important thoughts. And yes, I think, again, it underscores the fact that this type of collaboration from all of these different partners is critical to stopping this crime and this scourge that's on the internet. So to protect our children, we all have to work together. So we are running out of time for this panel. I want to send a big thanks to all of the audience participants that suggested questions. Really greatly appreciate all of your ideas and your questions. And a big thank you to all of our panelists who were here, who took time out of their extremely busy schedules to join on this launch today and to participate and give us some of your thoughts and ideas of how you see this fight against online child sexual exploitation and child sexual abuse material online. It has truly been an honor for me to moderate this session and to be a part of this campaign. And with that, I will pass back to Richard.
Thank you for your question and for the moderation, Kermin. And also would like to acknowledge the fact that it is important to make sure that partnerships are in place, not only to report, but also to support the victims. So it's important to have all those partners in place, to have the portal in place. And I just want to say thanks to Internet Watch Foundation. I've been working together with the Future Helpline to set up portals in a few countries, like in Tanzania and also in Malawi. And we have talked about the Child Safety Online Africa portal developed by Internet Watch Foundation and launched in collaboration with MTN. So this portal is to enable anyone to report child abuse images and videos, to remove them from the internet and help the children visible on this imagery be children. So to get to know a little bit what is the portal, let's now watch the video explaining how to make a report.
If you think you stumbled across child sexual abuse material, you should report it to the Internet Watch Foundation. The process takes less than 2 minutes, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a report quickly and easily. To report images and videos of child sexual abuse online, you can type the following URL, africachildsafety.com, into an internet search engine such as Google. Then all you need to do is click Make Report and then click Next. At this stage, you could decide to be anonymous or to leave your name and contact details. Whichever option you decide to take, you are doing the right thing by reporting this content. If you click on Website, you'll be asked to give the URL and any details you can think of, such as how you got to the page or what you thought you were reviewing from that list in the description box. Here, you'll be asked to identify where you saw the child sexual abuse material. Once finished, just click Submit Report, and it's as simple as that. Thank you for doing the right thing. Please share this video so others know what to do.
As we saw, Reporting is extremely easy. It can be done anonymously and could save a child. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I will now hand over to Yolanda Kuba, Vice President, Southern and East Africa for MTN Group to close off. Yolanda, over to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Firstly, I would like to say thank you for the kind of discussion that we've had here today. It is so important and necessary for us, given the times that we are living in. And I would also like to start by saying also thank you to our esteemed guests who participated and discussed some of these most difficult around protection of our children. So thanks to each one of you. Today, I represent Jolie. Jolie was 16 years old, a shy teenager, then blackmailed into performing sexual acts with adult males, and even worse. The disgraceful images and videos were then taken and shared widely online for financial gain and gratification for people with a sexual interest in children. Just saying those words and saying them out loud has to be one of the hardest things I've had to do. But the truth is, these are the words that we do indeed need to say out loud. We need to tell the stories to help stop everything that is happening. We have to tell the stories to stop the spread of this scourge, robbing our children of their futures and the futures that they deserve. I'd like to extend my special thank you to our guests, Dr. Femi Adelui from Nigeria, Patel Piri from Zikta in Zambia, Zamam Kosi from South Africa, the Council Chairman for the Film and Publication Board, the representatives from the United Nations Office for Drug and Crime, IWF, MTN Group itself, Meta, Child Helpline International, and ICMEC. I am also proud to represent a company that can openly discuss and act on such sensitive issues and important conversations like we are having here today. The youth are at the center of our audience as MTN. Everything we do is targeting at growing Africa's youth, and that youth starts with them being in childhood and them having a safe and an enabling environment in which to thrive as children is important. And to have these discussions is critically important to us. That means as much as our business is striving to lead digital solutions for Africa's progress by bringing the benefits of a modern connected life to everyone across our markets, it is also important that we are aware of the issues and challenges that the growing digital platforms may pose to our children, and more importantly, that we care enough to find solutions that protect the abuse that comes with having the power of connectivity. As a mother, as an aunt, as a sister, this conversation is particularly important to me. I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. So this is really personal. The safety of our children from the abuse on the internet is paramount importance right across. And while I try my best to regularly teach my children about internet and online abuse, it can never be enough. It takes you and me, and it takes a village. I am therefore pleased that we have forged this partnership with the Internet Watch Foundation, Meta, the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and Child Helpline International by launching the Help Children Be Children campaign today. This is definitely in line with our values as MTN. We all need to speak out and do our bit in stopping the spread of child sexual abuse material. Remember that all of us can play a part. You can report, but also I want you to remember this simple thing, that each time you share an inappropriate content about a child, images of children in compromising situations or sexual content, you are participating in another act of aggression and victimization against that child. It is another layer of shame and humiliation. Each share that you do is an act that works directly and indirectly to undermine our children's future and definitely the prosperity of our continent as Africa. And each share definitely is an act of abuse. Our actions today will affect the tomorrows of millions of children on the continent and beyond. So my ask to all of you that are listening today is that you please talk about what you've learned here today, very widely and very freely. Please share the messages and encourage people to report on the portal, the africachildsafety.com. That is the portal, africachildsafety.com. Once again, thank you everyone for being here today. Let's continue to ask ourselves every day with every action on how are we helping to keep our children and keep our children safe and keep helping children be children. For us at MTN, it is about doing for today, for tomorrow, today. Back to you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. Our action today will affect the tomorrows of millions of children on the continent and beyond. It is with that word from Yolanda that I want to thank everyone who attended this launching event, all those who are watching through our social media channel, through YouTube, and to say a big thank to all the speakers, to the MTN Group, to Internet Watch Foundation, to Meta, to UNODC, to Child Helpline International for this campaign. Using the portal will probably help save children in Africa and beyond. And remember, 1.3 million reports were, we had 1.3 million reports only for Africa in 2019 and 20 million reports all over the world. So it is time to act. It is time to act individually by reporting, by providing support, but it is also time to act collectively through partnership at the national level, at the regional level, and at the global level. So thank you very much for attending this event. The campaign will continue with roundtable conversation at the country level, but also with training for law enforcement at the country level. So thank you for now, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.